Welcome to Socrates, Garrett Live, coming to you from We Believe Digital Studios, located right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the deep South. Someone once said that the South will rise again, and if it does, it will be with African Americans creating the ability for it to rise. And I intend to take this time with Socrates Garrett Live to talk about how we get there, how we make a difference, how we've overcome the struggles of the past, and how we look forward every day to achieving and following the song that says, "Still I rise, still I rise." And we're going to talk about some things here tonight. But my passion is economic empowerment of African Americans. We have to find a way to level the playing field. And Lord knows it has been unlevel for so long until we forget how unfair the situation really is. And those of goodwill and good intentions are not aware of the conditions that keep our people from rising out of poverty. And so we're going to have to talk about that. We're going to have to talk about it over and over again. Economic empowerment for African Americans. And the only way that you can empower a race, a group of people, is through contracts. We can't do that through stimulus checks. Stimulus checks are wonderful. They are needed, but they empower economically all of the vendors that provide goods and services to the consumer base. So at the end of the week, I will spend my $1,400 with merchants, with vendors. And all of those merchants and vendors are going to be non-African American. That is a crisis situation that we're in. We must understand that the role of our elected officials is to be able to drive opportunity and wealth back into the communities from which they came. If our forefathers, our parents and grandparents and ancestors were willing to put their lives on the line so that we could have better opportunities and better paying jobs, then certainly we must be willing to put the jobs on the line for better opportunities for our people. Meaning that if you are elected and doing the right thing, which is to make absolute certain that minorities get the opportunity to participate in the procurement of goods and services, and it costs you your job, then you ought to put that on the line, because that's why you applied for it, for the job, and that's what you went down there to those positions to accomplish. It's just that simple. We got to realize that commerce, economic empowerment came first. And then we instituted government. Government came second. And the reason that government was created, quite frankly, was be able to collect the dollars from the citizens and house them in a central place, where those dollars then could be redirected to the business community and folk of your kind and your constituents. That's why government was created. And so here we are now in a chocolate city. Jackson is 85% African American. We're in a city where African Americans control the school boards and the airport authorities, the Hinds County Board of Supervisors, the city of Jackson, and over $1 billion a year flow through the hands of the leadership, African American leadership, within our communities. And yet, we fail to see any high-rise buildings. We fail to see African American owned trucks running the streets every day, delivering supplies for toilet paper and ballpoint pens, staples, tires, everything that makes an economy flourish. And we fail to see our folk involved. We got to fix that. And the way we're going to fix that is that we're going to have a contract. We're going to have a contract with the African American leadership that simply states that when I am elected to serve, I promise that every opportunity that I'm afforded to deliver contracts for goods and services back in the African American community, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be intentional about that. It's not going to be a second thought. I'm going to be intentional about that. And when I'm intentional about something, every contract that comes across my desk, everyone must be scrutinized to see if every opportunity was afforded to the African American business community to participate. Everyone, every contract that you vote on should have been reviewed to see if it had African American participation, and sometimes, and hopefully a lot of times, that it's African American owned. We can no longer sharecrop. We can no longer expect someone other than ourselves to fix the problems that we face. When we have the power to do it ourselves. And I'm excited about that. We fail to continue the momentum that we had gained when Martin was here. We fail to continue to fight in a way that Malcolm advocated. And so all of the great leaders of our times were focusing on economic empowerment of our people. And quite frankly, that's what caused their demise. Martin Luther would be here today if he had not attempted to improve the economic conditions of our people. He didn't go into Memphis to determine if we could ride the bus. That's not why he went. He went because the sanitation workers' salaries and wages and contracts and opportunities were too low for our people. And when you start dealing with the economics, and this is why you have to be willing to lay the jobs on the line. You don't have to lay your lives on the line, but you got to lay the jobs on the line. Because when you do that, the opposition, the mainstream contractors will try to destroy you. They will say that all that person contributed to his campaign. They will talk about the fact that all the FBI is in town. They are looking at everything you do. So don't do anything. Be safe. Keep the poverty levels in the regions of town that they currently exist. Or they will come up with all kinds of strategies. Poor performance. Oh, they can't do that. Black folk can't do that. They can't perform at the levels that's necessary. Oh, it'll cost us more money if we use African American businesses. You will hear all of that. And none of that is true. It's going to cost us more money if we don't use African American businesses because we are the tax base. The other vendors and contractors don't live in our city. The city and county is 85% African American. And yet, less than 10% of contracts for goods and services on a local level go to minority firms. In our state government levels, less than 2%. In a state where our population is 35 to 40%. And you wonder why we have poor health, poor schools. You wonder why we have high crime. Because we're poor and we're being kept in an environment. We even go so far now as to build fences around the African American community. That's why we created 220. So that folk wouldn't even have to come through our cities anymore. They could just bypass us. And when they bypass us on 220, they don't stop here. They don't buy anything here. They don't stay in the hotels. They don't buy gasoline. They bypass us and leave us to our own demise. By design, not by happenstance. By design, by a carefully crafted plan. And we, as intelligent as we are, fall for the same thing every day, day in and day out. As intelligent as we are, we don't fight for what's right and what naturally belongs to us, which is opportunity, the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness as guaranteed in the Constitution. It applies to African Americans. We want good schools. We want clean living environments. We want low crime. We want strong families, clean streets. We want all of those things like everyone else. And those things seem to just evade us in some mystical, magical way. And we remain in the condition that we were in 30 years ago. Some say we're losing ground. And in 20, 30 years, there'll be fewer minority businesses than there are today. And the wealth in the black community will be non-existent. We haven't grown, we are losing ground. And so I'm reminded of the story of the flea that was captured and put in the jar. And when the lid was put on the jar, the flea would jump so hard he'd bounce his head off the top of the lid. After a while of bouncing his head against that lid, he decided not to jump so high. So he jumped just high enough so he wouldn't bump his head. So then when the captor came and took the lid off of the jar, the flea did not jump out because he had been conditioned to try just so hard, to jump just so high. And even though he was jumping, he didn't jump high enough to get out of a jar that didn't have a lid on it. That's the mindset of the African American people today. It's hard out here. It's difficult out here to try to make something work in this environment. And let me just shout out to my fellow African American business owners. I know you're out there. I know what you go through every day. I know that you get up early in the morning and you work late into the night. And I know it's lonely. I know you don't have anybody to talk to. You don't have no board of directors. You don't have no relationship with no banker. I understand the struggle that you're going through when you're in the community with an unfriendly government. I remember watching the movie The Godfather, and when they wanted to move their operations into Cuba, and they said, why would you want to move from New York City into Cuba? He says, because the number one thing that's required to be successful is a friendly government. A friendly government. And African American business owners, you're in an environment where there is an unfriendly government. And even when it's controlled by African Americans, we sometimes find that they too become the oppressor and pull you back down in the barrel. We don't want to see him get ahead. We don't want to see her move forward because it leaves me behind in your mind, in your small little mind. I remember when I was sales manager for Xerox Corporation back in 1973. And well, let's just even go back further. When I was a sales representative and I called on my client in Jackson, Mississippi, the Chancery Clerk's office, and when I went into his office, he would not even look at me on the other side of the desk. He dropped his head to the desk and continued to talk to me. And I dropped my head on the other side of the desk and talked to him. We did business that day. In spite of the fact that he would not look at me. And when I became sales manager for Xerox, I understood that the most rapid way to move through corporate America was to always replace yourself. To grow African American talent underneath. So the conversation would always be, well, Robert now has demonstrated that he has the skills and capacity to become a great sales manager. We need to move him into the sales manager position. And they would look at me and say, well, why would you do that? That's the position that you have. I said, you're absolutely right. He needs to move into my position, and I need to move into yours. And that's the attitude that we got to have. Bring one up and move up. You can't move up by holding one down. We got to get this, people. We got to promote our people. We got to give contracts and opportunities to our people, and it'll make you grow faster in your profession. We got to get to that. I am going to take some time to talk about the role of African American business owners. Because I don't think people understand what's going on out here. I don't think you get it. I don't think Joe Biden gets it. I don't think you understand the difficulty of trying to run a business in an environment where there is no capital, where there is no finance, and there is no banking relationship. There is no one to lend any money. There is no money in our community. And the only way you can put money in the community is through the African American business community, through contracts for goods and service, of which we do none. So you don't get it. Our leaders think that you have to do it through poverty programs, or you have to do it through stimulus checks. None of that sustains growth and empowerment and changes from one generation to the next generation of empowerment. It's through business, contracts for goods and services every day. So when President Biden and Kamala comes to Mississippi, they want to talk about the social ills. They want to talk about health disparity. They want to talk about education. But nobody talks about the dollars and the cents that need to be invested in our communities. Black folk are poor in Mississippi. And poverty breeds crime and every other ailment that we experience. Take it back to the root cause of it. Crime, poor health, poor schools, all come from the lack of economic opportunity. And yet nobody talks about it. Our leaders don't say we're going to have an economic summit. We're going to bring all of our leaders, African American mayors together, and we're going to talk about one thing. How do we fix the economic disparity that exists within our communities? How do we grow a business class? Every time I hear a politician talking about something, he's talking about what someone else is not doing. our city council people and our board of supervisors people talk about the poor education and what the education conditions are. No one hired you to fix that. We hired the school superintendent to fix the education problem. Support him. But what we did hire you to do is control this billion-dollar budget. That's what we want you to do. We want our telephones to start ringing on every registered African-American business in the state of Mississippi to see if they have the capacity for this job that's coming across your desk. And if you're not doing that, you are failing your people. If my phone is not ringing because I got a phone call from the president of the board of supervisors of Hinds County saying we have an opportunity here that we think your company has the capacity to bid on, then you're failing me. And you're failing every other business person that does not get that call. And when I find that I've been in this business community in Jackson, Mississippi for 40 years, and not 5 elected officials have come by my office to say, what is it we can do to help you improve and grow your business so that you can hire more African American people so that we can eliminate poverty in our community? How can I help you do that? Not 5 in 40 years have been here. Not 5. And yet, every election cycle, I'll get the phone call, can you help me with my campaign contribution? And when you help with the campaign contribution, then the opposition that in the majority community, along with the control of the media, will then say he can't have any opportunity because he contributed to their campaign. What a wonderful trick that's being played on our community. And we fall for it every day. Every day. If under your administration, if you have not created 10 multi-millionaires in your 4 years of operation, then you need to rethink your program, because you have to be intentional about that. And you don't have to make no apologies about that. No other ethnic group is apologizing about that. The Indian community makes no apologies for that. Jews and Asians make no apologies for that. And we as African American leaders can't either. Now time is running out. We're losing a lot of ground. We don't have the number of businesses that we had. We don't have the large contractors that we had because our warriors are getting older. And the succession plans are not working. And we're losing ground every day. And I especially want those of you that don't reside in Mississippi, because I've talked and I've preached and I've shouted and I've hollered it out for 40 years. It's like the same wandering in the wilderness that the children of Israel had for 40 years. I've been wandering in Mississippi trying to make a difference, trying to do all the right things, trying to advocate that good folk of good intentions and goodwill can be intentional about what needs to happen. I've honestly done my part. I've started so many business organizations. I've worked with so many good white people in the state of Mississippi, so many good black people in the state of Mississippi. But I cannot get the economic empowerment piece on front and center. I cannot get anyone to be intentional about it. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. You simply have to want to do it. All of our HBCUs, listen up. Do business with African American business wherever you are. Don't wait for them to call you. You have a responsibility to call them. Business development is an integral part of your job description. You don't know that. You can't just say they don't exist. We don't have any black businesses that can do this or that. You can't just say that. You got to say, I have a need for them in this environment, so I'm going to assist in the creation of a business and I'm going to help develop the capacity of that business so that they can provide me goods and service in this arena. That's what business development and being intentional about something means. If you're not doing that, you're failing to deliver back to the community that sent you there in the first place. If you got a black caucus, the role of the caucus is to be able to empower economically in the black community. If you got a black anything, that's the role. Other than that, you ought to take black off the front of the organization. And that extends to Black Lives Matter. How do they matter? They don't matter so that you will just stop killing us by knees on the necks and gunshots. It matters that you quit oppressing us economically. That's when Black Lives Matter. Economically, when you have to make decisions between your grocery and your medical bills, that's an economic issue. It can only be solved through opportunities in the business community. You can't solve it no other kind of way. You can't give medicine and you can't give grocery, but you can award contracts for goods and services, and they can hire the grandchild of the person that needs the medicine. You got to take it out to its conclusion. and stop being helpless and hopeless about our condition. Every elected official, find one business, mentor that business, say that you're going to make that business successful. Just one. Everyone take one. It is not hard to do. And when we do that, we will fix many of the ills in our society. And Black lives will matter. And economic opportunities will come. And economic empowerment will occur. To the Black businesses, communities throughout this country, we need a national day where we all go to Washington, D.C., and we talk about the needs of our business community. We can't just let Biden and Kamala say that we're going to put money in the cities for infrastructure development. No. Those dollars don't get in the African American business community. Why not? Because you establish so many pitfalls and so many obstacles. You say that you got to have bonding capacity. Well, I've been running this job for the white company for 25 years. I've laid every water line and sewer line throughout your city for the white firm. Now I'm in business for myself, but I can't get the job because I don't have bonding capacity. And I can't get bonded in capacity until I get history. I can't get history because I can't get bonding capacity. Y'all need to quit playing these games. We got to quit bundling contracts and making them so large till the small business community can't touch it because of the requirements you put on it. You got to have a policy for communicable diseases. Give me a break. I'm living in the community that's dealing with communicable diseases. Quit putting all of these restrictions that prohibit us from having an opportunity. And as I said, when we go to D.C. and we come back, we got to have a new mechanism that gets those dollars specifically to the African American business community to do work. I'm not talking about no handout. I'm talking about to go to work. I'm talking about to build roads and bridges, to repair water lines and sewer lines. I'm talking about to replace roofs on properties, landscaping it. I'm talking about all of the things that creates opportunities and wealth in our community. I'm talking about contracts for cutting grass on the side of the highways, all of the interstate highways that I see all these tractors. It's springtime. All these tractors cutting grass. No African American contractors cutting grass. It's a shame. It's critical. It's a crisis. Why aren't they cutting grass? Well, they don't have the equipment. They don't have the equipment because the banks won't lend them no money to buy the equipment. Well, and you know that. You know, if I'm in the landscaping business and I go to the bank to get a loan and one of his larger depositors is in the landscaping business, that he's not going to make me no loan to compete with them. You know that. Set up another financial funding source like you do for everybody and everything else. Specifically, there ought to be no limits on the amount of dollars available to minority contractors to bond a project. Nowhere in this country. Maintenance contracts. all of the Section 8 housing, all of the federal government buildings, all the GSA property, all to have maintenance contracts with African-American owned firms. And if there are no African-Americans owned firms, create one. Do the business development. Empower them and mentor them and put them in an apprenticeship program so that they can do it. Now you're getting serious. Now you're being intentional. I don't go to any more of the meetings to sit around and drink wine and eat cheese and no contracts. I don't go to no meetings where there is not a procurement officer present that says, I have a specific need for these items right here. Can you supply that? That's the meeting I'm going to. But the meeting on getting to know me or how you can do business with us, that don't work. Well, you know, I've talked so much that I feel like it's falling on deaf ears. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that I've been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. God's kept me alive, that's true. But there is a promised land. There is a better place for African American business communities to operate in. The last person that did something significant for the African American business community was Richard Nixon when he created the 8A program, which is a set-aside program on federal procurement that must have minority participation. Do you know that if I mention the word set aside for African American businesses in Mississippi, I get laughed out of the room? Do you know that we don't have the help that we need to grow, prosper, and be strong as a business community? This show is brought to you by Earth Blend Coffee. I'm an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. Earth Blend Coffee is a company that I created to roast coffee right here in Jackson, Mississippi. I said I was a serial entrepreneur because I bought interest in a company in Hong Kong, in China. And I was so intrigued with the operation of roasting coffees and the procurement of beans and how that whole entity, that infrastructure worked until I bought a roaster out of Turkey. That's right. The finest roaster that money could buy out of Turkey, had it shipped into Jackson, Mississippi, and started a coffee roasting business. I have lots of businesses, and one day we're going to talk about them. But this show is being sponsored by Earth Blend Coffee, an African-American owned firm in Jackson, Mississippi. President Biden, if the Army would buy Earth Blend Coffee from this company in Jackson, Mississippi, we could employ thousands of people. You're drinking coffee anyway in every branch of government. If you just would buy coffee from Earth Blend Coffee in all the HBCUs, in all of the school districts, we got 189 school superintendents. If you just would buy Earth Blend Coffee, everybody that's tried it says it's the best that they have ever had, bar none. Forget Starbucks. Drink coffee that's roasted and grind right here in Jackson, Mississippi, and can be shipped anywhere in the world. Nothing hard about that. It's just being intentional about it. I know that if I was Secretary of the Defense, I could make the Army buy Earth Blend Coffee. I know that. I know the pressure and the opposition that you'll get from Nesbitt and community and Starbucks. I understand the pressure you're going to get, but the goal is to be intentional about improving the economic condition in the African American community so that we eliminate poverty, narrow the wealth gap, reduce crime, and stabilize our communities. That's why you're doing it. You're not doing it because I'm asking you to do it, but help me help the community fight its way out of this situation. Go to earthblendcoffee.co. earthblendcoffee.co. Order your coffee online. Order the coffee online. Do it today. Be intentional about it. Tell American Airlines about it. Tell everybody that's in a decision-making position about it. And let's see what happens. No business has ever risen to the heights of Boeing, TWA, Beach Aerospace. No business has ever risen to those heights without a friendly government, people. Earth Blend Coffee. Order it today. earthblendcoffee.co. Until we meet again. Next week, same time, talk about the same subject. Looking forward to seeing you then, my friends all over the world. This is being broadcast from We Believe Digital, another business right here in Jackson, Mississippi. We Believe Digital, a production studio right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Go to webelievedigital.com. All of the information, all of the news outlets, all of the public service announcements, all of the need to tell people about the importance of getting vaccinated, where they can go, about the collection service, the testing, all of the health-related issues. contract with us at WeBelieveDigital.com to help get the message out in the African American community that we so desperately need, and let's move the needle from economic deprived to economic opportunity. Go to WeBelieveDigital.com. Utilize our studio for production of your commercials. Utilize our podcast studio, which is actually our live stream studio, because everything that we do, we push out worldwide. We push it out on WeBelieveDigital.com, our own platform, no different than Netflix and Hulu, just African American owned. Use that. All of our churches that are out there, stop putting your message on Facebook when they take all of your content and they sell it to the advertisers and you don't get nothing. You don't even control your content. Put it on WeBelieveDigital.com where you have your own channel. It's always housed there. It's over the top. You can always see what your pastor has said whenever you want to look back at it in one place. And the church will have a revenue sharing program that brings revenue back to the church. You don't get that with Facebook and YouTube. Do it in the black community. Be intentional about it, pastors. Be serious about it. Let's use this platform. Call us. Call 601-209-9199. And you'll get me directly. I want to talk to you personally. 601-209-9199. We want you to have your video stream podcast right here in this studio starting next week. Rates are very reasonable. We need your help. We're trying to go someplace. We're trying to go someplace far beyond our current geographical boundaries and limitations. I don't want any business endeavor that I work in to have a footprint that's just in Mississippi. Some of those progressive leaders that are outside of this state, you got to hear this message. You got to come to our rescue. You don't know what it's like being an African American business owner in the poorest state in the nation, as red as deep red can ever get. You have no idea what insurmountable obstacles appear every day that we overcome. But we need your help. I'm going to close again. I sound like a Baptist preacher now. It's my second or third time closing. But this show is brought to you by earthblendcoffee.co. Go online and order your coffee from wherever you are in the world. WeBelieveDigital.com. Check us out. Check the webpage out. You see the channels line up that we're trying to build out. Schedule your video live streams in our studio right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Call me at 601-209-9199. Until we meet again, this is Socrates Garrett live signing out.
your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.